Shout out Coryxkenshin.
I know I cannot be the only one that do this, but I'm recording with no pants on right now. Now this video is about two girls who wanted to go to a party and it ended tragic for them and they died. Y'all already know what I'm about to say. Go get your snacks.
I just started off in your world.
So Elizabeth and Jennifer decided to go to this pool party. They get to this pool party, they have fun, they enjoying their day, and everything is going good. Like no drama really. Nothing bad is really happening. Now these two girls had a curfew. They had to make it home by 11 p.m. And as they was partying, they noticed that their curfew is about to hit. So they have two routes they can take. The route on the road, where they walk on this road that's going to take them longer, or they can walk in a shortcut. But little do they know, taking this shortcut was the worst mistake that they can ever make.
I'm glad that we decided to walk home today instead of getting picked up.
This is a pretty graphic story. If you don't like stories that have a lot of gruesome details, you might want to skip this video. So as they were leaving the pool party, they decided it'd be a little bit quicker if they took a shortcut, which is on these very train tracks that they were walking on.
So they take this shortcut to make it home quick before 11 p.m. hits. Now the next morning, one of the moms of the daughters woke up. Her name is Sandra. When she woke up, she noticed that her daughter's bedroom light is still on, Jennifer's. And the whole routine will be, when the light's on, she's not home. When the light's off, she's home. So she noticed the light was on, so she checks the room and she noticed that her daughter didn't make it back home that following night. The mom and the dad then starts to knock on everybody's doors, screaming out her name to wonder where her daughter is at, because she could not be found at all. And that's when these parents ran against Elizabeth's parents. They noticed their daughter was also missing. So both of the families, they start to panic and they all call 911 to do this search for their daughters. 4 days later, this anonymous person calls the police and tell them, I know exactly where the body is at. TC Jaster Park. Go there and you will spot the girls. So as the police are searching this area, they found two bodies. It was the girls. They were not alive and their bodies were decaying. So when they took that route, that shortcut, something happened that night. When the police did the autopsy on the body, they noticed that they both died from strangulation. They traced that anonymous call and they came back to some guy named Joe. He was the anonymous call and he gave 5 people names to the police. And out of these 5 people, one of them was Joe's brother. And apparently these are the 5 guys that murdered the girl. So they checked that brother's room, Joe's brother's room, and they found jewelry that belonged to the girls. So the police knew that, yeah, they definitely had something to do with these girls' murder. Here's what happened that night. When these girls took the shortcut path, Elizabeth was ahead of Jennifer. So as she was walking, she came across the guy named Jose. He grabbed her, kind of groped her, and she brushed him off and she kept walking, just kept walking. He did not want to be rejected at all. So he followed towards her, grabbed her by the neck and dragged her. Then that's when Elizabeth screams. Jennifer hears it, and around this time, Jennifer was not nowhere near her really. She was further back. She could have just ran away and called for help and she would have still been alive. But she wanted to help her friend. She was that brave. She wanted to help her friend against these guys. So she goes towards these guys to try to help her friend. So she's running towards her friend and then she gets grabbed by one of the 5 gang members. When she gets grabbed, these guys was forcing them to take off their clothes. The girls was biting back, fighting back, doing whatever they could because there was 5 guys though. There was still nothing they could do, but there was fighting. Listen to each other. Screaming, best friends screaming, knowing that this is not going good. Meaning why these girls are getting R-worded and why these girls getting assaulted, beat up, hold down. They said they was looking at each other and it made them cry even more while they were screaming. And they knew as they was looking into each other's eyes that there was nothing they can do but accept it. Even though they was fighting really hard. But then one of the guys, which was the gang leader, decided, you know what? They know how we look. We can't let them tell to the police our identity. We have to murder them. One of the guys told Jennifer, get on your knees. She got on her knees and they got the belt. As they was wrapping it around her though, it broke. So they used the shoelace and they wrapped it around Jennifer's neck. And as they were strangling her, they made Elizabeth watch until her body began to become lifeless. Now it's Elizabeth's turn. But she decided to do whatever she could so she could not be next, telling them that you can have my phone number, we can hang out later. It didn't work. She tried one more thing and that was to run away. So she runs, but it's 5 guys chasing her. So as she's running, she gets caught and grabbed. Then it strangled her to death with multiple shoelaces. and she was lifeless. So if each one of these guys had on masks, these girls could have definitely been alive, but because they didn't and they didn't want their identity to be shown, they felt like they just had to murder them just in case these girls was to tell on them. So by them taking this path with this railroad track that led to this park, ended their life, if they could only just risk coming home late, getting in trouble and being grounded. But it's crazy that it had to end like this. One of the dads ended up taking a picture where the railroad track at, where their daughter died at, when the police was looking for the bodies.
And as they were walking, the shortcut would come up right down this little embankment right here. This is where they encountered this individuals. A lot of detectives, they'll say this was like the worst crime scene they've ever seen. This was the worst crime.
Yes, all of these guys ended up being arrested. I believe all of them got the death penalty as well.
Family and friends gather on a somber afternoon to
Now, I say that to say this to you girls. When these guys was done with these girls, after they done everything, when they came home, one of these guys said, we had some fun. They didn't really care. Whatever they did or whatever they do, they don't care. Meaning that if one of you girls out here today run against somebody that don't care, it could probably be nothing that you can do. So don't be alone out here thinking things are sweet, because it can turn left.
16-year-old Elizabeth Pena and 14-year-old Jennifer Erdman.
You know that neighbor that's next to you? Do you know that person good or well? Because in this following story, we're going to be talking about a lady named Mary. She had her own house. She went through 2 divorces. She got married twice, and she went through the heartbreak of a lifetime. She started to get like really lonely. During this time when she got lonely in her house, she started to get cats. And I mean a lot of cats. She didn't buy them, she just found them on the street, stray cats. She would lure them in by, giving them food. Once the cats gained her trust, they will all live in her house. Even though she would be very lonely, she had her cats and she would be good and she would stay in her house. Like, she do not leave her house ever, until the neighbor seen that the mail was piling up in her mailbox. So she went to go to Mary's house to see if she was even there, to see if she was okay. So the neighbor knocks on her door, don't get an answer. Try to peek through the door, but there's something blocking the window. You can't see in the house. So she goes around, try to look through the windows, but there's things blocking the windows where you cannot see in this house. And she's not answering the door as she's knocking on the window as well. Not only was the mail piling up after some weeks went by, but the yard was starting to get overgrown. So that's when she knew something was definitely up. So what she did was call the police, let them investigate the area. And what the police did when they investigated the area, they got inside the house and they noticed a lot of cats, but all of them was dead. All of the cats was dead. So they're searching for Mary to try to find her, but they cannot find her. And they searched this house and they could not find her. So the police asked Mary's family, do you know where this lady at? She's missing. The family said, we don't talk to her. We don't know what's going on with her. So the police got an even much bigger crew and they searched this house. They searched the hell out this house and they could not find Mary at all. She was just gone. Someone who owns the land decided to put the house up after they redid it, and after the house looked more beautiful now, someone ended up renting out the house for 3 years. Now, when a certain guy rent out this house for 3 years, he now got his furniture there. He goes inside this attic that's in the house. I guess he was trying to check it out, trying to see things in the house that he didn't ever see. When he goes in his attic, he's just looking around and he noticed that it's really old up here. People don't really be up here as much. And he spot this little wood thing that's sticking up from the attic. It's sticking up, it's kind of odd. So he goes up towards it to check it out, to see why all of the floor is leveled, but this one part of this attic. As he looked, he noticed that there's this big hole, but it's black and he can't see. So he takes out his phone, pulls out the flashlight, looked down, and it was the remains of Mary. Meaning, when Mary was up here, probably feeding her cats, because her cats came up there to enjoy the sunlight view because there was a window up there in the attic, she fell.
I would love to have an explanation as to how investigators seem to have so casually dismissed this as an accident. How could a human fall into an 8-inch space? I just don't see it.
If it wasn't an accident, how did Mary die?
I think there's a very real possibility that she was murdered.
And she was stuck for a couple days screaming. But since she was so stuck and she couldn't climb up, and because how skinny this wall was, she just had to accept her fate. So next time you see something strange next door, like you may be seeing a lot of flies in your neighbor's window, and you haven't seen them in a while, well, something bad could be going on in that house and you don't know.